Today on the show, we've got Leo Flowers. I've been on Leo's podcast before, which is called Before You Kill Yourself. Leo is a comedian, so expecting a few laughs on the show today, going between things like anxiety and depression onto comedy might be a bit interesting. So, yeah, looking forward to the chat. Welcome to the Redesign Your Mind YouTube channel and podcast, where we have real conversations around mental health, self-improvement, and how we can find more meaning in our lives. I'm your host, Stefan Moralia. You can watch episodes here, or you can listen to the podcast on iTunes or Spotify. The show and any video uploads are loosely inspired by my book, Redesign Your Mind, Tools and Inspiration for Positive Mental Health, which is available on Amazon, Kindle, iTunes, and Audible. Please refer to the description below for more information, including my socials, a disclaimer, and how you can get in contact with me. Thanks for watching and joining me on the journey to redesign your mind. Hi, Leo. Thanks for joining me on the Redesign Your Mind podcast.
Thanks for having me, brother. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. And I've obviously been on your podcast before, and that was very interesting and some good laughs as well. And just for those listening today, it's the Before You Kill Yourself podcast. And I guess just checking in. It's been a while since we last chatted. So how's everything going with the podcast and yourself personally?
It's going horrible. Are you kidding me? It's protesting. I'm in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
RGB just died. It's going horrible. It's a catastrophe. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like anybody who says they're good right now is not tuned in. They don't have TV. They live out in the woods somewhere. But I say that to say that like it's all the things, right? Like it's a beautiful catastrophe, right? Never at a moment have we been in a position where we can either really come together as a people or really separate and divide and whether it's as a country, as a city, as a household, either you're going to get closer to the people you're with or you're gonna kick them out to the curb or divorce or break up, or you're really going to take the time to explore and find out some things about them and find out about yourself. This is never have we had a greater opportunity to turn into ourselves more and discover new pathways, new circuitry, new habits and behaviors. And I was hiking yesterday, and I almost died. I almost died on this hike yesterday because I don't like to take a nap, and I never bring enough water. And it was a 4.5 hour hike, and I exited the hike on the wrong side of the mountain trail, and my car was another 2 miles.
Can I jump in there? And I think I saw on your Instagram before you sugarcoat it, you actually caught an Uber to get back to your car. I'm not sure if that's what hiking's about.
Yeah, I caught that's how far. But when you think you're done with something, when you think you've completed a task, and then you realize that it's not the finish line, that there's you know what it's like. It's like you ever wash the dishes and you're so proud of cleaning up the kitchen, and then you realize there's like 5 more dishes left, or somebody puts in that last plate. It was like that. I was broken when I realized that so I was like, I called the Uber Black. I called like the most expensive Uber. I was like, I deserve this. Take me, I was like, hop in the chariot, take me. Anyway, but as I was hiking, I met this woman at the top, and she was sharing how she's hiked it numerous times, but every time she tries to find a new way to the top, a new pathway, a new route to take. And I was like, how beautiful is that to not only do that with our hikes and with our cities, but with ourselves. You know, we walk around with this idea of who we are all the time, and these narratives and these stories, and they're tied to, you know, one experience that we use to explain and overgeneralize everything else that we do. But there's always an opportunity to discover a new pathway and a new habit in it, you know. So this is it's a beautiful disaster right now, is what I'm saying. It's an ugly beast.
It is. And look, so much to unpack there, but in terms of, you know, my book and my story with Redesign Your Mind, it's always looking to change and improve things, and looking at particularly what you're going through in America at the moment is you need that change and collective change as a society. But what you're saying as well is that people need to do it individually also, and just look at themselves and start that change.
I mean, listen, there's terrorist attacks, there's COVID, there's you know, the illegal immigrants, there are all these things that are coming for you, aliens, climate change. But at the end of the day, when you, statistically speaking, we are our biggest threat. You are your biggest threat to you, right? When we look at the top 10 causes of death, you know, the top 5 are chronic diseases, they're lifestyle diseases, meaning the way you live your life is the biggest determinant of how you're going to die. And then after that is accidents. So you are your biggest threat, you know. So we have to turn inward and look at our behaviors, as Andrew Huberman said, who I've had on my podcast. I like how you very early plugged your book. That's beautiful. I like the marketing there. You're like, in my book. Yeah, I love that. You keep saying that.
That's it, man. I've only got another 10 plugs to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right, because there's so much to talk about. But to give you a bit of background, in Australia at the moment, yes, we're going through COVID, but parts of the country where I live in the south is actually pretty much open as much as possible. So we've got no cases in our state, and our state borders are pretty much blocked off. For example, you've got the NBA playoffs over there at the moment. You know, it's all in this bubble. Whereas in Australia, next weekend, I'll be going to one of the finals, and there's 30,000 people allowed, and there's just one space between each person. So, and if I flash to another state in Australia, they're in a hard lockdown. So they've got too many COVID cases. So they're actually really struggling, because they're not even allowed to leave their house pretty much. And like you talked about there's so many fears and things going on at the moment. What do you think people can do if they are in an environment such as yours, or like I talked about in Victoria, where they're locked down and feeling this fear? What can they do to kind of work through it and push through those tough times, just like you did yesterday on your hike?
Well, you know, I do a thing every day called the Daily Germs, JERMS, and that stands for journaling, exercise, read, meditate, self-talk. And I truly believe in those. It's the foundation of my day. It helps to prime my mind. And I say prime because, you know, the first thing most of us do when we wake up is we grab our cell phone. And so we're allowing other people to dictate how we're going to feel and what we're going to think about the day and how we're going to move about the day. I can't tell you the number of people who, you know, I also personal train and I life coach, and a number of people who, when I train them in the morning, they're already talking to me about the world's catastrophes.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing that they're feeding their minds with. And I'm always encouraging my clients, you know, you have to feed your mind with books or stories or letters or just a conversation with yourself. You know, the first conversation you should have is with yourself, not CNN having it with you, or the BBC News, because you're in Australia. BBC, you know, having a conversation with you. It should be the conversation you have with yourself. and then you should get moving, you know. So first you're journaling, and journaling doesn't have to be this dumping out of your heart. And I feel like this in life it doesn't have to be that. Journaling could also be just taking notes of what happened through the day. You know, it's just like a debriefing. Like I had this for breakfast, I did this after breakfast, I exercised, I went for a walk, I had this conversation. Oh, I really like that conversation. Oh yeah, I forgot about what she said. Oh, that's a cool quote, you know, I want to write down. I watched a TV show, it kind of gave me nightmares. Like you're just taking notes on your day of what happened, right? It's like a quick debriefing so that you can reflect on and catch anything that might be a small issue that then becomes a larger catastrophe a week or 2 weeks down the road. But you could also write down your goals or ideas. Journaling doesn't have to be about just emotions, but it could be like, here are 3 ideas, or here are 3 words. Like I love words, and sometimes I'll latch on to a word like vibrancy or vitality, and I'll ask myself, how can I be vital today? How can I show some effervescence? How can I engage and have positive engagement today? So it could also be where you're asking yourself questions to help guide you through the day, right? So when we think about exercise, it doesn't have to be P90X or CrossFit. It's just about movement, whether that means walking around a block for 20 minutes or, doing some squats or even just stretching. Stretching is so good to get the blood circulating. My favorite thing really is the foam roll. So we're just talking about movement. It could even be dancing, you know, put the music on, just get the blood. It doesn't have to be caffeine, people. Caffeine is great, but you get those highs and lows, but the movement that stays with you, that blood circulating. And then you read something that's going to nourish your mind. You know, we also talk about breakfast and what you feed your body. You have to feed your mind, you know, whether it's the Bible or just a passage from a book, but just, you know, that those thin little Thich Nhat Hanh books, you know, they just give you little passages for the day. Read that, like a little calendar quote or even a quote, but read something that you can sink your teeth into and maybe give you something to talk about through the day versus talking about what's going on in some other part of the world that you have no control over, right? And then meditating. Meditation is not about like finding calm and zen. It's really just a practice of sitting with yourself, of just saying, hey, I like hanging out with me. Let me just sit with myself for a little bit. It doesn't have to be this scary thing. You don't have to find some enlightenment, because it is scary. Like it's not this calming thing that everybody touts it to be. The demons will start to surface, but that's only if you haven't, you know, dealt with them and talked about it and expressed it. But it's nothing to be afraid of. It's something to guide you and let you know that it's something that you should take note of so you can deal with. And then self-talk, you know, always having like affirmations that I do throughout my day. You know, one of my self-talk is, and I always improvise it, but I have a basic structure of like, I'm powerful, charismatic, and a great entertainer. I create my own opportunities. The more I give, the more I receive. I love working and I'm richly rewarded, both creatively and financially. I'm strong and self-confident, the master of my life. I surround myself with powerful and beautiful people every day, and in every way, my life is getting better and better. My dreams are alive. And that's the truncated version, but I say it while I'm walking, you know, and then I throw in some things, you know, it's like cooking, you know, maybe I feel like a little paprika, or maybe I feel like some lemon zest.
Bust it up.
You gotta juice it up, put some cottage cheese up in there, you know, you gotta open up the pantry, see what mama brought home, you know, so have some fun with it. And, you know, it don't have to be all this mental health stuff. Don't have to be serious, you know. We don't have to be sitting there talking about our childhood. It's fun and engaging. It's life, man. You know.
Yeah.
Put your teeth in it. Yeah.
And that's what I love about your style, is that it's all about setting yourself up. It's not trying to. I mean, obviously, we need to fix any challenges, but every day you wake up and you say, right, how am I going to get my mind and my body in the best shape possible to face the challenges that come later on?
Absolutely. It's all about your foundation. I had a friend who is manic depressive, and he talks about how it takes him, 30 minutes to an hour just to get his mind and body ready for the world. He's like, if I don't do that, I'm in trouble. I took helicopter lessons. The amount of checks you have to do before you can fly the helicopter, it takes a half hour to an hour, right? And so you got to think about your body and mind as that helicopter. Like, you have to do a systems check.
That's awesome.
Like, is my body primed? Am I ready to do what the day is going to ask of me? Am I going to be able to handle what's going to be thrown at me emotionally and physically and spiritually? Am I going to be thrown off? Am I going to be undone? So we have to, and that doesn't mean, and where people I think beat themselves up is that they do these things and then they still become undone. They still lose their way. That's a part of the process. It's not about staying on a path. It's about knowing that you can get back on. When I went hiking, there was a swarm of bees. And I could hear them because I didn't have my headphones on like I usually do, but it's because I want to be able to hear when the attack is coming. And so I heard this zzz, and I was like, wait, are those the power lines? Because there were power lines up above, or there was a swarm of bees, and I could hear it moving. And I looked up, and it was a swarm, and they moved so quickly. And I paused, and I was like, I don't know what their intentions are, But I was like, I might have to run back. But that's okay if I run back because I know where the path is. And I know after I run and the bees disappear, I can get back on track and continue on with where I'm going. So, two things I want people to think about is, one, once you have your foundation, you're laying your own path so that no matter what happens, you can get back to something. You have an anchor, something to latch onto. And two, it's like, instead of always trying to numb out the world around you with your headphones, you gotta take them off so that you can hear what the world is what was going on in the world, and what's going on in your head, so that you can preempt it. So you can be like, oh, I see where my thoughts are going. All right, let's get ahead of that.
And
so
sometimes
we can't do that when we're numbed out.
Yeah, and sometimes, just like you said, you have to go back to go forwards.
And there's no shame in that, That's just life. Yeah. That's just life right there. Life is continually, you look at the forest fires that have been taking place over this summer. I'm in LA or San Diego, and it's been a horrendous and as catastrophic as a forest fire is. People losing their homes, their way of life, animals are being displaced. It's also part of the rebirth and the renewal of the environment. The earth is constantly destroying itself to rebirth itself, or whether you're talking about the ice age froze over the earth, and now look at how many forests and trees, and you got the wild, what is it in Brazil, what's that jungle down there?
The Amazon,
right. So, but it wasn't always there. When you think about a volcano erupting, it erupts and it destroys so many things. But over time, trees and plants and animals, they all start to come back and run around. So it's part of the cycle,
It's the same for us. It's the same for us. And there's a lot of people that have taken this opportunity while in lockdown, or they may have lost their job or been stood down, that they've said, right, this is that opportunity for me to try something different, to do something that I've never had the time or the passion to do. Now is the time. And that's that rebirth that comes out of the death of the old you, or the old lifestyle you're in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what I want to ask is, you're obviously, like, you're a cool dude. Like, you do the comedy stuff, you have the podcast, but you also have the mental health side where you set yourself up and you help others to do that as well through your coaching. What led you to this lifestyle? Because, obviously for men, it's not very common for us to be leading this type of life, and you've obviously taken it to the next level. So what was the moment that you said, fuck, like I need to change here and I need to develop something to make me feel good?
Life has a way of punching you in the face. I was a college. I played high school football, college football. I
Yeah.
weighed 275 pounds. I
Wow.
received a football scholarship to play at Ball State Division 1A. Went to a Super Bowl, and
Oh,
I'm
wow.
benching like 410. I'm running a 4.5. I'm a beast. I'm an animal, Steph. And
Yeah,
and then I had a game my fourth year in college where I hit this guy. And I remember I usually, if I hit someone, sometimes I'll get a stinger down one side, meaning like a numbness on one side of my arm. This time I hit a guy and I had it going down both arms. And when I told the coach that, he was like, you can't get back in the game, bro. We got to get you to the hospital. And they take me to the hospital, and they find out I have 3 bulging discs in my neck. And I woke up with a temporarily paralyzed the morning after the game. So when you wake up paralyzed, and you're 21, and the doctors are telling you can no longer play football, and then 10 years later, Steph, after that, you wake up paralyzed again, just from working out, and now you have 6 bulging discs in your neck. And the doctor's telling you they have to fuse your C3 through 5 together. You start reevaluating life because you realize you have to let go of how you've been doing things, or else you're going to atrophy and die, because of the spinal fusion. I can't lift weights the way I used to. I can't move the way I used to. My body gets inflamed. My neck really starts to bother me. And so I asked the doctor, he was telling me all the things I can't do. I said, nah, man, I don't live like that. You got to tell me what I can do. And he said, well, you can swim. And so I started, I didn't know how to swim at that point, Steph. I Googled how to swim. Steph, I dated lifeguards. I've dated girls who
you don't
were
have
on
to
a
date
swim
them
team.
to learn.
Listen, but even in high school, I took a whole year of swim lessons. Still couldn't swim, Steph. I was like 32 or 33 at the time. When the doctor was like, all you can do is swim. So I started Googling. I was like, there's got to be there's got to be something out there. And Tim Ferriss, man, bless his heart, man. He has a podcast also. Yeah. And he posted a 1-minute military training video of how to swim. Oh, wow. And it taught me everything I need to know on how to swim. And then I was in 1 minute, Steph. I've taken semesters, years. I've taken women out to dinners. I mean, those were some very expensive swimming lessons, Steph. And in a 1 minute clip, Tim Ferriss in the military has this way of training. I can't even explain it, but it just taught me how to swim. And so I got in the pool. I've been in the pool ever since. And then I realized I can't just swim. I got to find other ways to move my body because, there's not always a pool around. And so I started getting into yoga. And then, when you're going through rehab, the first thing they do when you have surgery, they try to drug you up. Leo Flowers is not about the drugged up lifestyle. I like to be primed and ready. I like to be engaged. I don't even like to dabble in that caffeine. I'll do a cold shower, but we can't be dabbling in the caffeine. So I was like, yo, man, I can't do the meds. I'm just gonna have to start. I'm just gonna have to feel this pain that the universe is trying to send me. But I was like, also, I know I can't live with that pain. There's got to be other ways to deal with it. So, physical therapy only give you like 6 sessions. So I had to figure out for myself and do the homework myself. It goes back to turning inward and figuring out how to release the tissue around the joints, foods that I could eat to reduce inflammation, how to sleep, hydration, so you start even managing your emotions. You realize that, being stressed and anxious and all those things, what I watch on TV, how long I sit, like all these things start to come into play. So I realized I had to look at my life 360. It couldn't just be about exercise. It had to be about the physical, the emotional, the social, the spiritual, the mental, the occupational. All those things tie into how you show up in any given moment, you know?
Yeah, and it's kind of like you might have 4 areas out of 5 doing really well, but if the 5th area is no good, it's going to throw those other ones out. And for me, one thing that, even through my own recovery, and it's always a ongoing thing that you're always improving, but I found that, I saw a physio because I was still having problems with my neck and things like that. And I said, oh, when I was going through anxiety, every doctor and every specialist just said it was anxiety. And I don't feel anxious at the moment. Yeah, I've still got these problems. And she said, yes, because your body has learnt that posture and that pain inside and that pressure inside your body. And you need to work on your body now to release that stress from within your body. So even though your mind has already done it, you need to tick that box as well. And that really resonates with what you've said there, that it's a holistic journey. It's not just fix your mind. No, you got to fix your diet, fix your body, fix who you hang out with. And it's not to say that, maybe you can comment on this as well. Nothing's perfect. Like, you don't have to be a nerd that pretty much just sticks within these limitations, but it's, hey, this is my center, and I might drift away from it from time to time, or, give myself a break or a treat and things like that. But the core of who I am will not move from that new center.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, confidence is really knowing that you can get back to center. That's all confidence is. It means if I get knocked off, if I get hurt, get down, if I get off track, I know how to get back on track. And so that comes from your daily practice and just grooving those new neural pathways and those new habits, so that you're confident in what anchors you. I think about Nelson Mandela when he was imprisoned, and he was, what was it, like 20, 30 years. And I studied. I go, how does a man, who went in a prison in his, I think, 20s, and it emerged in his 70s, or however long he was in there, how does he keep his mind sharp? Because he walked out of there sharp as a tack. And his daily routine. That's where I got the germs from. I got it from Nelson Mandela. He said every day he would journal. He said sometimes the guards would take his paper away, and he said so he would grab a stick or a rock and write and journal in the dirt. Or he would write on the wall. He said sometimes, they would take his books away. So he would write something and then read it backwards. And so it's like they couldn't take his mind away. They couldn't take his resilience away. He was a man with purpose, and he knew the value of anchoring himself. And I was like, if that's what he did, and that allowed him to walk out of there with that clear mind and sharp perspective, and he seemed to have no bitterness, and to be able to let it go. I go, that's what everybody needs to do every day, because if you wait until it hits the fan, it's too late. You're not prepared.
You haven't done the training.
You haven't done the training. It's like the football season just started here in America, and that would be like the players thinking they could just show up, on game day. But they haven't done the training in our off season. That's what the off season is for. So for those of you, if you've lost your job, you lost your wife, you lost maybe a chronic illness. All right, so this is off season, baby. And then our off season, that's where you start training for the new season. And your new season could be in 6 months, 3 months. It could be in a few years. You might maybe you're training for next year, or maybe you're training for the Olympics. The Olympics comes around every 4 years.
Yeah.
So, but you in your head, you have to set that timeline. Andrew Huberman, who I've had on my podcast, neuroscientist, talks about to reduce anxiety, we need to know 3 things: duration, path, and outcome. But so the duration is either someone tells you how long something's going to take, or you determine for yourself how long that's going to take, right? I'm right now, I'm studying to recertify for my personal training, and they tell you like, okay, it's going to take you about 3 months to do this. I go, all right, that's your duration. Leo Flowers is on a whole different timeline. You know, I'm on that, what's that? That's Chronos. I forget there's a Greek word for being on your own time.
Yeah.
But so I'm on that other time. And I'm like, I'm gonna knock this out in a couple weeks, you know?
Yeah.
So but so you have to set up for yourself duration, path is how you're gonna get there, and outcome, what is it that you want out of this?
The major thing I'm taking out of my chat with you is that you determine what is going to happen in your life. And that's one thing for me, with anxiety and depression, and from what I've heard from a lot of other people, that they feel control is lost. And that's another reason why they feel so depressed or so anxious about what's to come. And that's what I love with what you're doing. So would you agree? And what are your thoughts on having that control and determining, hey, this is what's going to happen? You're not telling me how things are going to play out. Leo says how things are going to go.
So there's a balance here, Steph, right? Like I don't live on an island. So what I mean is I recognize that I have to give up part of quote unquote control to the universe, to the people around me. You know, sometimes my girlfriend wants to have dinner a little earlier than I want to, a little later or whatever. So I adjust my schedule, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you get called, your work demands more of you or less of you or whatever. So we have these extenuating circumstances that we all have to deal and cope with. And so, you know, the thing is, and the thing that keeps me anchored and grounded is knowing that there is a window for me to ground myself, that I'm not giving myself completely over to this external entity. You know, in the book Unbroken, and I forget the guy's name, it's based on a true story of, I think, from World War II, where he was captured. He was a prisoner of war. And, you know, he was a prisoner of war for years, and they're torturing him and beating him and all these different things. And he said the one thing that anchored him was his rooster. There was a rooster that would run around the perimeter, and he named the rooster. And something about the rooster and him, he just felt like there was a connection, and it just gave him hope. And he couldn't explain why, but seeing that rooster gave him hope. So it doesn't always have to be something that you do. Sometimes you just anchor on to something ridiculous as a rooster. So I encourage the listeners, find your rooster. Find that ridiculous thing, and don't tell anybody what it is. Don't tell anybody. It makes it even more powerful. They're just like, you know, when you meet somebody, you go, something about that person. They got a rooster. So get you a rooster, and I'm telling you, you'll be walking the earth with the utmost confidence.
Yeah, that's it. And the thing, you know, you mentioned I don't have control, but I feel that you do. I feel that the difference in your mindset is, though, that you're flexible to move. So you set out your day, you set out who you want to be, but you've got that flexibility, which people need to learn as well, to be able to pivot, to be able to change, to be able to redesign their minds as things go on.
Absolutely. You know, today's a perfect example of that. Of last night, I didn't sleep very well, and I'm not one of those people that I used to beat myself up for not being able to sleep, but now I love it and I cherish it, because now I take advantage of those moments where I wake up in the middle of the night and I get up and I journal and I come up with all these great ideas, or I read. Right now I'm reading Cold Mountain, which is a great book. And so, you know, I make use of the time until I'm ready to go back to sleep. And I don't even try to figure out why I'm still up. I'm just like, I'm up. Let's do something with it until I'm ready to go back to bed, right? And so I'm kind of paying for it today. Today I felt a bit sluggish. I had a plan to go for a hike, but I don't feel like my body's primed. It hasn't recovered from yesterday because I didn't get enough sleep last night. So I'm thinking in my mind, you know, do I want to hike in the morning, or maybe I should push it to the evening, take a little nap? So I'm readjusting, and trust me, Steph, you know, I'm not one of those people that just talk about like, you know, I'm ticking all these boxes and I'm crushing life. I get overwhelmed sometimes. Sometimes I break down and cry. Sometimes I don't know what direction to go. Sometimes I do all the journal, the exercise, the read, the meditation, the self-talk, and it is not enough. And I still want to end my life sometimes, and it's unexplainable. But I tell you what, the thing that I then think about when all that's said and done is, as long as I can breathe, I'm okay.
Yeah, man.
And I learned that when I did the Grand Canyon. I hiked the Grand Canyon. It took me like 8 hours. I did the South Rim.
Did you catch an Uber home or?
Yeah, I caught an Uber back.
From the bottom.
I wish.
My phone's not working.
Yeah, I almost didn't make it, and I had 2 angels with me who helped me get through it. And I almost caught a full body cramp, and it was to the point where I was telling them to just leave me. Like that's how in much of a disrepair I was, how my body was shutting down. I couldn't even hold my head up as I'm trying to make it out the Grand Canyon. And I just kept repeating to myself, as long as I can breathe, I'm okay. So at the end of the day, if I can't journal, if I can't exercise, if I can't read or meditate or self-talk, I just say, all right, but can I breathe? Yeah. And, you know, because I've been in a hospital. I don't know if you've seen someone with pneumonia before, but when you're around somebody who can't breathe and you hear and you hear the fluid in their lungs, you go, okay, at least I can breathe.
Yeah. And yeah, I think that's a good point for everyone listening, that you are so good at what you do and you even coach other people with their own journeys, but it doesn't mean that things are perfect and all rosy. And I love that you can share that with people, because sometimes people with anxiety and depression see these people doing well and recovered, and they put pressure on themselves to feel that way. So for me, that's what I love, that you share that. But yeah, from my point of view as well, you know, remember that heaps of people love you out there, man. And, you know, when you do have those dark times, just remember that the good work you're doing to help yourself, help your family, and help all your listeners too. So never forget that. But yeah, so one last thing I want to talk about, and I asked you about this before the show to see if you're comfortable, is about the Black Lives Matter movement. And in Australia, we've seen quite a bit of press on it. And in Australia, we actually have our own issues with Black Lives Matter as well. And there's been quite a few protests about Aboriginal lives, and there's been deaths in custody, similar to what's happened in America. And this movement has started to try and, well, not started, it's been going for years and years, but it's come up again in Australia. And I just want to get your thoughts, and, you know, you've got an opportunity to give the listeners, you know, something they can think about to change and be part of the redesign and the change in the world. Because someone like me, I don't have the skills or the knowledge of what to do, but to me, it's something we all need to engage in, because it's ridiculous that we're in 2020 and these racial prejudices still exist. So yeah, just want to get your thoughts on that.
You know, it's not going away, the racial prejudices. And the reason is because as people, we love to label things, and we love to be in groups and tribes. We're tribal. It's like, I'm a Bears fan, there are Cubs fans, there's Bears fans, there's hockey fans. You know, I'm from Australia, but, you know, it's like, are you from Perth or are you from Sydney? You know, we love to separate ourselves. It's like, are you light-skinned black? Are you dark-skinned black? You know, are you rich? Are you poor? There's always going to be groups. We're always going to be looking to, you know, what kind of clothes I mean, why? It's also the only reason why Gucci and Louis Vuitton and all these other companies are making so much money. They're making money off the fact that we like to feel like we're a part of something bigger than ourselves, and what other way to show, what status, quote unquote, status you have in life than, by how much money you've spent on your t-shirt or socks or on your bag, things like that. So that's how much we want to be a part of. So we're willing to spend $20,000 on a Birkin bag. I think that's actually cheap. I think it's more like 50, whatever it is, to say, hey, this is my identity. This is who I am. I'm part of the Birkin bag crew, right? So it's not going to go away. But with that said, it's just like your anger is not going to go away. Your grief is not going to go away. Your sadness is not going to go away. It's not about making things go away. It's about getting curious as to what it's trying to teach you. When I feel anxious about something, when I feel sad about something, I don't want it to go away. I want to talk to it. I want to ask it questions. I want to sit with it. If you're not able to sit with yourself, how are you going to sit with your neighbor? How are you going to sit with your family? How are you going to sit with your loved ones? How are you going to sit with your community, the country, the world? No wonder we're afraid of aliens. We're afraid of ourselves, right? We can't even sit with ourselves. So yeah, some big-eyed green thing with tentacles. Yeah, we're going to be terrified of that kind of thing. So it all starts, to me, with, I'll say three things. And I don't even know what the third thing is. I'll figure it out as I get there. But the first one is to read broadly. I like to read a lot of different books, and if you don't like to read, get the audiobooks, or even watch TV shows or documentaries that you wouldn't otherwise watch. Because what reading broadly does is it increases your compassion for other people from other cultures and other ways of life. And it improves your understanding of what they've gone through and why they might be saying the things that they're saying and doing the things that they're doing, right? So read broadly. Fiction gets a punch in the face, but it's really a great way of understanding human motivation, human character. And it also allows you to see and realize how conflicted we all are at all times, how hypocritical we can be, right? When I went hiking, I ran out of water, and 3 different people gave me water. And I bet you one out of those 3 voted for Trump, right? Yeah. So we can't get caught up in the labeling of people of, if you did this one thing, that means these 1 other million things are also a part of it, right? So read broadly. 2 is make friends with your neighbors. I know so many people who they've lived in the same building for a year, 2 years, same neighborhood. They don't look at their neighbors. They're walking around with their headphones on. They don't wave. They don't say hi. They don't know if their neighbor's sick. You hear stories about the neighbor been dead for 3 weeks and nobody knew. They just heard the dog barking. So say hi to your neighbor. Socially engage, join different groups, but start with your neighbor. Say hello, let them know who you are, introduce yourself, bring them a pie or some barbecue or something.
No caffeine.
Introduce yourself. No caffeine, no caffeine. Give them a ride if they get lost,
or rooster.
Absolutely. But the third thing is to realize that people don't really mean what they're saying. And what I mean is this: if somebody can say, I hate you, right? And if that's a white person saying it to a black person, we go, that white person is racist. But when we get to the root cause of hate, it's really fear. It's really hurt, right? There's only 2 motivations. You learn this in acting. There's only 2 motivations for action: love or fear. So when I see, the Nazis or skinheads or whatever the groups are, or even the gangs where there's just or even a group of anybody where you just see and feel so much hatred, you realize at the root of it is fear. You realize at the root of it is hurt. Somebody hurt them. The father wasn't there. The father abandoned them. So they're like, if my blood doesn't love me, why should I care about you? And why should your life matter if my life didn't matter? My family, by spitting on me. My dad was an alcoholic. My mom beat me. I was sexually abused. why should I care about your life?
Mm.
So if we can look each other in the eye and really hold that, you look anybody in the eye for longer than 3 seconds, you're going to see a different person. I promise you that. Look anybody in the eye, and not in this, I want to fight you, but really just sit there. Feel grounded through your feet. Look someone in the eye, and you will see a different person. You will see that 9-year-old who struggled to be seen, heard, and understood. And so when you start to roam the earth and you start to realize we're all just 9-year-olds, acting like adults, then it changes how you interact with people. Now you have a bit more curiosity, and maybe you validate, what they've gone through. Oh man, yeah, it does suck for you. You don't have all the privileges. Whatever you've been through, and that's where the healing begins, man. But we have to start to be able to look each other in the eye first instead of looking past each other.
Leo, I love that. It's all about understanding. It sounds like from your comments there, understanding and connecting with people. And if we can all try and do that a little bit more, hopefully we'll move forward a little bit more with each day. Leo, thanks so much. It's been an awesome conversation. I've been laughing, I've been learning. Hopefully the listeners really got something out of it. Again, the podcast is called Before You Kill Yourself. And I'll put Leo Flowers' Instagram and info in the show notes. So do get in contact with him if you want to keep this conversation going. But thank you for coming on the show, Leo.
Thank you, Steph. You have a very soothing voice, man. Very soothing. You got a career in this.
Okay, I hope so. Thanks, mate. Bye.
Thanks a lot, brother. Peace.
Leo Flowers. What an interview. I love how Leo takes the time to set up his day and really engage in the qualities, mindset, and physical side of how he wants things to go. We can all learn a lot from how Leo goes about his day and also likes to have a laugh. Check out Leo's info in the show notes, and hopefully you can listen to his podcast as well. Thanks for listening to the Redesign Your Mind podcast.